Welcome to Sarpy Outlook, a program dedicated to promoting democratic ideals from an issue-based perspective. This season, however, we are focusing on candidates who embody those ideals by running for public office. I'm Peg O'Dea Lippert. Our guest today is Jane Raybould, candidate for Lieutenant Governor in the state of Nebraska. Welcome, Jane.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Jane, as a political activist, it is a thrill for me to have the opportunity to talk with you today, and even a greater thrill when I consider the reason. Chuck Hassebrook, candidate for governor, selecting you as his running mate, is and was the best choice. You bring gender balance, business experience, elected office background, an energy level, and a whole world of credibility so lacking in our state government today.
Well, thank you very much. I can tell you it is a real honor and a privilege to run for a statewide race. And it is an honor to work with Chuck Hassebrook, to be on his ticket. He is someone I tremendously respect and admire. He is a man of integrity, honesty, determination, hardworking, to make sure that he represents everyone in the state of Nebraska. He has a vision for the future of Nebraska to make sure that folks have opportunities, educational opportunities, business opportunities, and certainly with his agricultural background as director for the Center for Rural Affairs for, over 30 years, he really understands the agricultural power of our economy here in the state of Nebraska. He understands agro-businesses and agro-industries, how vital they are to our economy in the state of Nebraska. And I think that is critical for any governor in the state of Nebraska to have a thorough understanding and expertise in that field.
He doesn't need to pretend, does he?
He doesn't need to pretend that he knows agriculture. He knows agriculture.
Jane, I wonder if you would tell us what is entailed in the position that you seek, and paralleling that with the skills, talents, and experience that you bring to this position.
Well, that's a good question. I'm currently a Lancaster County Commissioner and embodying, of course, Lancaster County in the city of Lincoln. And I think some of the skill sets that I bring to the position, I'm a businesswoman, but I'm also very fair-minded. And oftentimes, in any elected position, you have to be able to work with both sides, and you have to be effective, and you have to be a good listener, and you have to be persuasive. But most importantly, I do my homework. I do my research, and I prefer to present with facts and reason, and then work out the issues. As a Lieutenant Governor, there are a lot of things that Chuck and I have talked about, the responsibilities that they would like me to take on. But the primary responsibility of the Lieutenant Governor is to preside over the legislature. And we are fortunate in the state of Nebraska. We have this wonderful majority of progressive moderates who, with the right leadership and direction and guidance, will enact policy that makes the most sense for all Nebraskans. And that is what I look forward to working with Chuck on, making sure that we craft policy that we will get the support of the majority of those progressive moderates. And we're talking about, great Republicans and great Democrats working together, and we are so fortunate in this state that that has been done. Some of the other things that a Lieutenant Governor has oversight of is Homeland Security. Certainly, as a county commissioner, we work with our emergency management team very closely, and that's fundamental to be able to respond as quickly and appropriately as possible in any state of an emergency. So Homeland Security is a big responsibility and oversight that they give to the Lieutenant Governor. There are a number of other commissions and task force, and certainly Chuck and I have talked about really working with the newly appointed Director of Health and Human Services. That is a crisis of enormous proportions, not only from the failure of Access Nebraska to the failure of the juvenile justice and the foster care system to the failure in the grant management of Health and Human Services. So hopefully I will bring my expertise with operations and business and project management to really work with the new director, certainly work with the legislature. Senator Kathy Campbell, who is the chair of Health and Human Services. She has done great things. Senator Sue Crawford has been working actively on improving Access Nebraska. So these are the state senators that I look forward to working with, and certainly the new Health and Human Services Director, to craft a policy and have more oversight, more accountability, get more weekly updates and status updates so that we can work together to really craft solutions and benchmarks to make Health and Human Services certainly more responsive and a better steward of our taxpayers' dollars, so we're not spending millions of dollars to correct failed privatization efforts. So I think that's business background will certainly help with that. Of course, we talk about the Department of Corrections a lot. And you know, I can tell you that having had conversations with Department of Corrections and having had conversations with folks who work for Health and Human Services, they desperately want to do the right thing.
Of course.
They have gotten a lot of bad direction, and the morale is quite low in both those departments. So we intend to really work with the stakeholders and really try to create a positive atmosphere of support rather than a punitive atmosphere of throwing each other under the bus. There needs to be improvements, clear improvements. Department of Corrections needs a lot of improvement. And I see they are finally making baby steps in the right direction. You know, we knew of overcrowding in the penitentiary since 2011. Even the Platt Institute wrote about the overcrowding in the penitentiary. There should have been steps taken a long time ago with the Department of Corrections to make sure that they instituted the necessary programming and support. So those inmates, when they were on parole or probation, they had the community support they needed so that they would get the job training, that they would get the mental health treatment programs that they may have started inside, or the substance abuse treatment, or the GED classes that they need to be a better and more productive citizen. They needed these community supports. And I know that Senator Brad Ashford has been working this past session and his task force and the interim studies that he's working on to make sure that there are community supports in place for those that are released, that they will succeed and they will not recidivate. And I think working with these great programs that some of the senators have started and following up on it and making sure that the funding is appropriated for these programs, then we can assure success going forward. But there's a lot of work that we have to do. But those are some of the things that Chuck and I have talked about. These are the directions that he's going to put me in task and in charge of, working with him, of course, working together to try to come up with some solutions.
Great, Jane. We're looking forward to this.
We'll be busy. We'll be busy.
What was your reaction and your thought process and motivation that led you to accept Chuck's offer to be his running mate as Lieutenant Governor?
Well, I have to tell you, I didn't even think.
Oh, no.
I just said, Chuck is a great man. He is exactly what Nebraska needs for this period of time. He is thoughtful. He's deliberative. He knows how to lead people. You know, when he was the UNL regent from Northeast Nebraska, the most conservative section of Nebraska, the only Democrat elected, and he was also elected the chair of UNL Regents. So that shows the tremendous respect and leadership that he commands. So I know I didn't hesitate. When he asked me, I said yes. And it was a little, you know, problematic because I'm a county commissioner. I'm up for re-election, and I had no opponent in the primary, and I had no opponent for the general. So that meant I was pretty much a sure thing to be voted in again. But I just believe in Chuck, and I trust his judgment, and I trust his integrity to always do the right thing for Nebraska.
So there was some risk.
There's risk, but, you know, I guess you hear with the stock market, with risk there comes great reward. And I think I do it because I am so committed to public service. I really want to make a difference. And I think with the right team in place, with the right leadership and the expertise we both bring, agriculture, academics, business, and elected office, and being able to work with the legislature, that's how we get things done, and that's how we bring the most benefit for Nebraska. And so I'm thrilled, I'm excited, and I didn't think twice about saying I'm going to join this ticket.
That
you
makes
bet.
it even more exciting.
It was a great, and of course I was really thrilled to see that Chuck did choose a woman, and I think that speaks volumes of how important it is to him and his team.
Great, great. You know what, I think people sometimes overlook the fact that with that experience that Chuck had at the Center for Rural Affairs, that 18 of those years was in management. So we know he not only knows and understands the rural situation, he knows how to lead.
Absolutely. You have to understand administration, management. You have to understand budgets. And I know Chuck brings that expertise. Certainly I complement that expertise managing and being involved in Lancaster County's budget, but also with our business. You know, we have a very successful business. We're the largest independent grocery operator in the state of Nebraska, employee-owned, family-owned. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary being headquartered right in Lincoln, Nebraska, and providing thousands of jobs. And I think that is fundamental. You know, Chuck understands small business, being able to generate, being able to diversify with the agro industries and agro businesses. And certainly we understand, our company and our family business, how to create jobs. You know, we have over 2,200 employees all throughout Nebraska, and to be able to create jobs, but to sustain jobs and to continue to grow and to continue to reinvest in our community, in our cities, and in our state. So I think we make a great team.
I do too, and I'm excited about it, Jane. How is the campaign going, by the way?
It's going well. I can tell you that I am just overwhelmed with the response. When we go out throughout the state, everywhere I go, when we opened up the office in North Platte, I thought for sure we would see those 5 brave Democrats show up like they always do. And when we got to the North Platte office for the opening, it was just wall to wall. It was packed. It was standing room only. And I can't tell you as a Democrat how thrilling that is for something to see that, and it's energizing and it's contagious. And we see the same in Omaha. When we go to Omaha, people are enthusiastic. They want to work hard. They want to volunteer. So the campaign has volunteers throughout all 93 counties, which is really a tribute to Chuck. But it really is kudos to the field team, the field staff, and the staff that we have. They're talented, they're professional, they're driven, they're hardworking, and you saw the success with the minimum wage petition drive. Oh my gosh, kudos to those volunteers all throughout the state of Nebraska. I didn't think they could get it done, sorry, but they did, and I am in awe of what they can achieve and what all the volunteers throughout the state can achieve when we work together. We can do it as Democrats, and that is what is so uplifting. And so I see that, I feel it. Wherever we go, we are so warmly received. Democrats come out in numbers, and we know they're working hard. The campaign is committed to making at least 10 touches, meaning they are going to make either 10 phone calls, 10 visits, 10 mail, a total of 10 mailings. And I think working with all the different county parties, they're working very hard. They know that we have some great candidates up and down the ticket. You know, Dave Domina for U.S. Senator, and the 2 congressional candidates here in Sarpy County, Dennis Crawford and Brad Ashford. And then we have 2 other women running for statewide office that thrill me. You know, Amanda McGill for state auditor, and then we have Janet Stewart for attorney general. It's a dream team, of Democrats. And so we should all be proud, and we have to work hard. We can't be complacent. We have to work hard, and we can, and we have.
I think you probably know that we make calls out of our Sarpy County office at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I personally go to Chuck's office on 96 because that's closer to my home on Mondays, So, yeah, we know a lot of people are out here working.
And all those volunteers, these efforts are what will make a difference. It's your help, it's your support, and it's your continued help and support that is going to make a difference in all these elections. So I encourage you to follow Peg's lead, volunteer, make those calls, walk that precinct, and help any way you can.
Jane, would you tell our viewing audience what it is you want them to know about you personally? That is your growing up, your education, your family, and whatever else you wish to tell them.
Well, I want to let them know that I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was born and raised there. Went to Blessed Sacrament School, Pius X High School, and I went to Creighton University. I'm a 4th generation Nebraskan. My mother grew up in Tarnoff, Nebraska, on a farm there, and my grandmother was born and raised in Loop City, and then my great-grandmother, Hedwig Zuba, was the first one in her family. She was child number 7, but she was the first one from Poland to be born in Nebraska.
Oh, really?
Right in Platte County. So I'm not a farmer, I'm a city girl, but I have cousins that still farm, and I have a very great sympathy and empathy for all the hard work that they still commit to doing. And my education is in certainly business background. I worked for many years in Washington, D.C. for the District of Columbia Building Industry Association, where I have a commercial construction background, and so I brought that business background and expertise, community work, certainly in Washington, D.C., back to Lincoln, Nebraska, and have been working with our family business for the last 11 years. I deal with our capital investments and property management, real estate acquisition. Wow. So I wear many hats in our family, and I can tell you I love it. I love being back in Nebraska. I think some of my attributes and our family attributes we're all hard workers, we're fair-minded, and I hopefully I've translated that into my work as a county commissioner, and I certainly look forward to serving everyone in the state of Nebraska as Lieutenant Governor.
Well, you bring a set of skills, Jane, beyond my knowledge, you know, of wonderful things, the investment background, the construction background, capital, you know, I mean, it's all amazing, and things that can all be very useful in your position as our next Lieutenant Governor. So, in closing, could you summarize for our viewers why it is that they should vote for you and Chuck instead of your opponents?
Well, they should vote for Chuck Hassebrook and Jane Raybould because fundamentally we care about the future of Nebraska. There are so many issues, from minimum wage that we support to making sure that those young people that come to the United States when they are small children and now have an opportunity to have a green card through deferred status will also get a driver's license. Nebraska is the only state in the United States that doesn't allow these young people with a provisional green card to get a driver's license. That will change. That will change. And certainly working with the Nebraska legislature, we are going to get Medicaid expansion and reform passed. As a county commissioner, that was our number 1 and number 2 legislative priority, because the Lancaster County taxpayers are paying $2.8 million through general assistance to cover this. Douglas County pays over $5 million. So it's a form of property tax relief that would impact certainly Lancaster County residents. Sarpy County pays over $800,000 in general assistance that covers that single adult working poor population. And that is why Medicaid expansion is so critical. It impacts that group of people, but it also impacts hospitals in the smaller community hospitals. They rely on that additional expanded revenue source coming in to help them succeed. And that is so important to every community. Just as that school in every community or that grocery store is so fundamental, that hospital in that community is critical to the livelihood of that community. So I just want to assure all the voters, there are so many fundamental differences between Chuck Hassebrook and Pete Ricketts. Chuck Hassebrook cares about the future. He wants to reinvest. You know, we have renewable energy right here in the state of Nebraska. We're ranked number 3 and number 4 in wind energy. I'm excited because in Lancaster County, we're actually working and hopefully going to work with a wind farm coming to Lancaster County. That's property tax increases and revenues that we hadn't anticipated. And certainly with the farmers or ranchers that it impacts, that's an additional diversification of revenue for them. So these are exciting times for Nebraska and exciting things that we will champion, and that you can count on Chuck Hassebrook and Jane Raybould getting the job done.
Thank you so much, Jane. And on behalf of Sarpy County Democrats, I thank you, and I wish you every vote.
Well, thank you.